afternoon, all. I'm Sal Greco, and you're watching and listening to a live edition of the Sal Greco Show. It's Tuesday, so there's a few topics. I know yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, so we're going to get into that. But before we do that, if you can, please hit the like, share, subscribe button, also notification button. Also, if you can, you go to the other YouTube channel that I have personally. It's the Sal Greco Show. You can subscribe over there. You can watch some of the segments and some of the older episodes of the Sal Greco Show. And also on this channel, on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel, go to the video section. You can watch some of the older episodes also if you can. So I really appreciate it if you can. I hope everybody's doing well on the day after St. Patty's Day. So the reason I wanted to bring up St. Patrick's Day is, of course, yesterday there was the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City. And, of course, as usual, the illustrious mayor of New York City, pictured right there, Eric Adams, with Tiny Kinsella, who amazingly still has a job, and the corrupt Louis Molina right next to him, who is the head of DCAS. And he dubbed it that yesterday, New York City is the Dublin, Ireland of New York City. Like anything else that Eric Adams says or does, it's always whatever, group or city or whatever ethnic group he'll bring up their country, their town, and say it's that day's that city. So yesterday was New York City was the Dublin, Ireland of New York City. But also we had somebody else at the parade, the illustrious governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul. So let's just watch what she had to say, because she had something really crazy involving her extracurricular activities in the morning prior to even showing up.
Maddie Korsney.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you.
Governor, have you had any Guinness this morning?
Actually, I did.
You did? Did you split the G?
I didn't go quite the far, but I did. I was at the Stout this morning.
Oh, you were? No.
I used to go to the Doubler at 6 a.m. in Washington, so I went a little later than I used to go.
Lovely now.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught that, but she's saying that she was already hitting the bottle at 6 in the morning. And she used to do that in Washington, D.C. when she was a congresswoman, which is coming from the school of Nancy Pelosi. It's nice to know that your congressmen and congresswomen are out getting boxed before 9 a.m. when they show up inside the halls of Congress. So they already don't know what's going on prior to entering the building. And it's nice to know that the governor of New York State is out there doing the same thing. So now when you wonder about some of the crazy things that she's doing and ordering, well, maybe she's under the influence, because apparently she's out drinking at 6 in the morning. I find that I don't know what to say. I know a lot of these people like to have drinks and entertain themselves, usually after the fact, after a long day of work, not, a couple of hours prior. So now I'm going to get into some other stuff. So I saw also yesterday, I believe that was President Trump. He mentioned this thing about pardons, about nullifying these pardons from Joe Biden, who was the former president who pardoned people on the final day. So I want to put this post up because I think this was fascinating stuff. So he wrote on his Truth Social, @RealDonaldTrump, the pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the Unselect Committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during the 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people, yours truly included, should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. Now, folks, I find this interesting. I don't know legally if what he's saying can be held in a court of law. I find it very, disturbing that there was some kind of auto pen signature going on. So we really don't know if Joe Biden actually signed some of the documents that he signed as president. As far as this pardon stuff and whether people could be, prosecuted for stuff, you have to understand this January 6th committee, which was running around completely rogue. They lost documents or got rid of them, or There's stuff. They probably even when I had to deal with them, that tape and that video might be gone too. So I don't know what they did, but there was a lot of corruption involving this and the cast of characters that involved that January 6th committee. So if that's true, if any of that is true, and that could be brought out to light, and at least someone somewhere being held responsible. I mean, an auto pen to sign official documents for the president of the United States, that doesn't sound right. I don't think that might have happened in the past that we don't know of, but now that we know, I think something should be done about that. Well, now we're going to get into something else because, as they say in Stone's Rules, you praise him before you hit him. So we got to dive right back into this whole President Trump / Eric Adams association because it's something else hit this weekend, and it was in the city. So I'm going to glance through this for you here. And this is from thecity.nyc. It's from Greg B. Smith, the dean. He's the dean of journalism in the city of New York. And this article starts with Trump organization presses Eric Adams for Woolman Rink rights after City Hall spurned $120 million nonprofit gift. Now, listen, Trump used to own this Wolfman. Well, he had the naming rights to the Wolfman Rink. He's the guy that he refurbished this whole place. He made it prominent. And in 2021, right after January 6th and everything that happened there, Mayor Bill de Blasio at that time, the dope from Park Slope, he decided to take all the naming rights away, including this golf course that's in the Bronx that was also underneath his name. So let me get to a couple of paragraphs here, because I think this is really important to kind of encapsulate what you may or may not believe is going on right here. The Trump organization is aggressively lobbying the office of Mayor Eric Adams to win its bid to run Central Park's Woolman Rink. Two sources familiar with the matter confirmed to the city, squeezing Adams to award a contract, even as President Donald Trump's Justice Department moves to dismiss the mayor's corruption case. See where there's an issue there. The city put out a solicitation for bids just days after Trump won re-election in November. The opening for Trump to run the coveted rink also came just weeks after the nonprofit Central Park Conservancy had offered to give the city $120 million to replace the rink and fix up part of the park. I mean, that may or may not be a good thing. Deputy Mayor Mira Josie and Parks Commissioner Sue Donahue didn't take the gift offer and didn't respond to the Conservancy's follow-up. After ghosting the Conservancy, the Department of Parks and Recreation put up a public notice the morning of November 13, seeking bids to operate the rink. Within hours, a Trump organization executive was quoted as stating the company intended to pursue the contract, suggesting advanced knowledge of the bid opportunity. If City Hall awards the Woolman Rink concession to the Trump organization, the president's family's business, it would link the popular tourist destination at the foot of the iconic park to the Trump name once again. Of course, I just said that they were the ones that refurbished the whole place during the 80s. And, he did Trump did an excellent job with that, but we're talking about years ago. And it's unfortunate it took his name because here it states his company ran the rink for decades, but was kicked out by Mayor de Blasio following January 6, 2021 riot by Trump supporters at the Capitol. I don't know about that statement. Last year, a judge ruled the company liable for more than $363 million in a civil case brought by State Attorney General Letitia James, centered on financial misrepresentations by the company to the state of New York and tax filings. It's funny because Letitia James has plenty of misrepresentations herself in an article in the Gateway Pundit this morning. It was mentioned there. So and it goes on and it mentions the relationship that, I guess this currying of a relationship or whatever. Eric Adams and President Trump were together at Mar-a-Lago, where they weren't. And there was the inauguration. He was also there. And this part here is where I want to get to. A key player involved in these talks was the Central Park Conservancy, a well-heeled nonprofit that has steered millions of dollars in philanthropic funding to enhance the park. Among its projects scheduled to open this summer, a $160 million replacement for the ice rink and swimming pool, formerly known as Lasker Rink, in the northeastern corner of the park. The Conservancy contributed $100 million to the new facility, dubbed the Davis Center at the Harlem Mere, with the remaining $60 million covered by the city. So, and again, last summer, And the fall, the Conservancy's lobbyists targeted Josie and Donahue to discuss the future of Woolman Rink, city lobbying records reveal. On September 18, the Conservancy met with staff at Josie and Donahue at City Hall, pitching the idea of providing the city with a $120 million gift that would pay to replace the rink and address chronic stormwater flooding and accessibility issues in the southeast corner of the park. A source familiar with the meeting told the city. And then, of course, they try to contact everyone, the vice president of the Trump organization, the city hall, the deputy mayors. Nobody answered. So the bottom line here, though, is you can see how something like this doesn't look good. So when you go back and think of the case of Eric Adams and how it was supposed to be dropped with prejudice, without prejudice, and they didn't give you the key words of in fairness of justice, anything like that. They were trying to hold his case over his head. This doesn't look good. This is kind of like almost like a quid pro quo, and I'll tell you why. If you remember just a few short weeks ago, it was President Trump's son, Eric Trump, that went on the Sid Rosenberg show, and I'll almost word for word, if I'll paraphrase it, he stated that Eric Adams has been good to his family, and he mentioned how the prior mayor was not. Now, if you want, you can look at this any way you want, but it screams of something corrupt going on here. If they are to bypass all these other bids, and all of a sudden Trump organization ends up taking everything underneath everyone's noses, that I can't be on. I can't be with. I'm not for something like that. But it really starts to reek of something going on here between his case, Eric Adams' case, and how it was handled by Trump's DOJ, by Emo Bove. You can watch prior episodes. We go over this over and over again, the legal ramifications, legal analysis of it. And I think it stinks, and I thought that President Trump should just back away from that personally, because Eric Adams, with people still pleading guilty to things, it doesn't look good. It just reeks of trying to curry favor to help this guy where he has no political, there's nothing left for him politically. So much so that I believe he announced yesterday, or he's hinting that the fact that he's going to run as an independent. As you know, here it is right there. Eric Adams won't rule out running for re-election as an independent. Apparently he had a press conference and he said he's going to look into things, and it's a mess because he can't be a Democrat. He can't run as a Democrat because he's getting trounced in the polls. And of all people, the person trouncing him is the former governor, who's probably filled with more scandals than Eric Adams himself, or they're neck and neck with that. But it doesn't look good for Eric in a Democratic primary. So what do you have left? This guy is trying to remain relevant. The guy screaming, going around, calling people Negroes and all this crazy stuff. This guy doesn't have any political capital left in him. Therefore, I still can't wrap my head around why President Trump or his family would put any stock in this guy, because politically he's finished in my book and in the book of many, many people, many scholars, many people in the political sphere, lobbyists. All these people know what's happening here. But now we're going to segue into what the show today was really all about. And we're discussing illegal immigration. And I guess New York, crime is down because, hey, it looks like ICE has been running around and either apprehending criminal, illegal alien gangs, or the gang members, or they've just been running for the hills because they don't want to be captured. Looks like the Roosevelt Hotel and the Walcott Hotel they're looking into all of that. In fact, the DOJ, I believe, is investigating that, even though it's a little odd because Eric Adams should be investigating himself for that entire fiasco at the Walcott Hotel and the Roosevelt Hotel, which we'll just call crumbs because that's what Timmy Pearson relayed into someone in regards of a lawsuit when he's discussing the migrant shelter contract. So I figured I'd bring on a guest that's very well versed in this, and he's a New York City resident. So I wanted to bring on Jason Meyers. Please come on to the show. And how are you, Jason? How's everything?
Hi, Sal. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jason. So I wanted to introduce you to all. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you're all about, and just a little bit of what you're dealing with, because you are a New York City resident. You told me for at least 3 or 4 decades now.
I'm not a New York City resident. I'm a
New
native.
York.
I'm a native New Yorker, Sal. There's a big difference, as you know, right? I grew up in Queens, a mile from Donald Trump, and I lived in Manhattan for most of my professional life. After 9/11, I knew something was off. A big chunk of my city was taken from me. And before I go a little further, I really want, my heart goes out to Thomas Midtown South, from Midtown South, Detective Pete Panuccio, both of whom are alive and well and doing very well right now. So I want to just give a shout out to those two guys. They mean a lot to me. I know them a very, very long time. Officer South, I know my whole life. We went to kindergarten together. And, after 9/11, I became disenchanted. I felt hollow, like my city was hollowed out. I felt hollow. And in 2016, 17, I moved to Switzerland because I used to be an investment banker. And I had a fight with a captured regulator called FINRA, which is a constitutional bypass. And I got into the crypto space. I moved to Switzerland, Crypto Valley, right? Zug, Switzerland. And we built what, as it turns out at the time, a GovFi application called Pacioli.ai, which is SEC disclosure on a blockchain with an external validation network that audits the financial statements, right? After the inauguration, I saw a newsreel on Fox of one of the first ICE arrests. And it was this Haitian guy, and he was being put in a truck, and he says, "Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything you did for me, bro." And the second time he said, "bro," I said, "Oh my God." I called my partner and I said, "We're going to launch ICE Raid tomorrow." And then I called my dev team and I said, we already have a lot of this infrastructure built already. How long would it take you to lift and shift it to a new server and repurpose it? And I explained why. And they said about 7 days. I said, you got 3. And we launched iceraid.us, which is an application that allows citizens to take pictures on location. You got to be on location. You can't take a snapshot in LA of a photo in New York. You've got to be on location. And then there's AI that raises the confidence that it can be pursued by law enforcement, right? If you're a witness and you're browsing the ICE Raid Explorer, first place you're going to go to is your own neighborhood. So let me go to my own neighborhood. And if you see a familiar location and you might even spot a familiar suspect, well, then you can corroborate as a witness, right? So we then introduced 6 additional categories of criminal activity along with obstruction of justice, because a lot of these ICE raids were being tipped off and the illegals were being tipped off, and these operations were getting botched, which cost me money as a taxpayer. It puts the lives of those law enforcement officers in danger, right? And it's in direct violation of what has now become at least an order, but a federal law, right? We've had these laws in place for a long time. Mm-hmm. So this really became the beginning of this whole GovFi movement. And I spent a lot of time in DC now. We deal with lobbyists, politicians, and I'm talking to somebody Bobby Jeffries of District 10, Pennsylvania. And I told him about this whole GovFi program, this application platform category that we started. And he got really excited. And so it's really starting to take off now. We're getting a lot of visibility. And What's disheartening is these New York City laws, which you know all about, Sal, which prohibit the police department from cooperating with ICE, the federal agents, right? But that doesn't mean that we as citizens can't get together and raid ourselves. The difference is we get paid a reward. And that's what makes GovFi so interesting. GovFi delegates tasks to citizens that would otherwise be undertaken by large monolithic government agencies funded by taxation and borrowing, right? And as we've seen, and as we all knew, this is not new. What's being disclosed on the Doge website is something we suspected all along. There's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse, right? What GovFi can do is help balance budgets, pay down debt, and it can put the millions of people that were forgotten and abandoned by the Biden administration back to work. Because these people were not only forgotten, they're no longer counted in the Bureau of Labor Statistics unemployment numbers. Because if you're looking for work for a certain amount of time, they don't count you anymore. Now, if they recorded unemployment numbers the way they really are, we'd be at 18, maybe even 20% unemployment. And you can't report that, because if you did, the bond market would get destroyed. Nobody would buy our debt, and we'd be a third world nation, right? So if you follow the money, it'll always tell you the truth. Always. You probably know that better than most. You follow the money, it'll always tell you the truth. So we're getting citizens together. We're going to give them a reward in our token, right? It's a crypto platform, sits on the Solana blockchain. And for every photo you upload, you get a reward. If enough people do this, we can lay down a trail of breadcrumbs to the bad guys and make America safe again. At the same time, if you follow the money, right? This is all without taxpayer cost. And if it undergoes mass adoption, it's going to be GovFi that onboards the next billion users in crypto. Not a fancy wallet or a new blockchain or a new L1, as we say in our industry. GovFi, which empowers citizens abandoned that are no longer counted. We're putting them back to work. And that's the hope that GovFi brings. And ICE Raid is the simplest example of a GovFi protocol.
I see. So kind of like what gentleman here, Tom Hurley, I hope I said his name right, says. He says, in other words, Jason is saying GovFi is like Doge, allowing citizens to crowdsource government activities and firing thousands of government bureaucrats.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true.
And is this an app that, let's say, you could, I guess people could call up, or what are they reporting activities they believe to be like a criminal gang on a corner that's or a legal immigrant gang that's running around, like we've seen for the last 4 or 5 years now, running around this entire country, causing chaos?
Yeah. What you do, because it's a Web3 application, you either go to the Play Store or the App Store. You download Phantom Wallet. Phantom Wallet is a Web3 browser and a wallet where you hold your value, right? You got to follow the directions to set it up. And then you go to iceraid.us, click launch the app, and whatever photos you've taken on location, you connect to the app and you upload the photos. You answer 2 questions. Did you see it? Were you there? Do you recognize the location? What category of criminal activity is it? Is there obstruction of justice involved? Right? And then you click upload, and that's it. It's as simple as that. It's really, really easy to use.
So does this and do these reports, or when people file these reports on the app, does this go directly to ICE itself or Homeland Security?
So we're talking to many law enforcement agencies, and what we want to do is give them what we call in technology the API endpoints. And they can take the data and they can do whatever they want with it. Right?
I see.
Yeah. But it shows up on a map. So you get outed as a criminal on the Explorer, which is a globe. And if you launch the app, you go to the Explorer, it's a globe, and you see the dots on the map, and those dots represent images of suspected criminal activity.
I see.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's actually that's a genuine that's a state-of-the-art idea, I got to be honest, especially in blue towns like New York City or Washington D.C. or Austin, Texas, or Houston, Texas. These are towns that have had problems with these migrant crime wave, these gang members, and obviously, as you know, in New York City, the police, corrections cannot cooperate with ICE. The only thing they can do is, I believe, it has to be a criminal warrant, and even that has to go through steps. But you cannot just cooperate. You can't just call up and say, "I have one of yours here, and an ICE detain a warrant." They don't even notify anyone because it's been a law that's been there for like 4 or 5 decades since Koch. So no mayor ever challenged that in New York City. I'm sure every other jurisdiction in the country, they have their own rules. That seems to be one of the problems, is that they don't have cooperation. Here's Drone Ranger mentioning New York City Council would have a stroke if on-duty NYPD UMOS participate in this app based on intel they receive while working. He's 100% right.
Good. The more controversy, the better. Seriously.
Because
you can't do it, but I can, and all my citizens, my 8 million brothers and sisters of New York City, we can.
Now, a regular civilian can do this. Obviously, it's not against the law, or you won't be reprimanded as in the law enforcement, where a cop can't do it because of the stupid law they have. And there's another question here by Drone Ranger said, so who's bankrolling the finance behind the reward?
Okay, that's a great question. In the crypto space, we create our own monetary systems. It all dates back to January 3rd, 2009, when Bitcoin was born, which is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, right? I got into the space in 2013 through a friend of mine, Nick Spanos, another native New Yorker, right? And when Ethereum was launched, that became a revolution in finance itself, different applications. So in this case, to specifically answer the question, there is a maximum supply of 1 billion ICE raid tokens. We are selling these tokens right now on our website. The proceeds that we use are going toward creating a vibrant, efficient trading market that will ascribe a value to the rewards that you get, right? This is probably one of the first applications on Solana that has real world utility. Solana is mainly used for meme coins. Donald Trump launched his meme coin on Solana on inauguration, the evening of, the 17th, before Inauguration Day. Yeah. I was at the crypto ball in DC, and all of a sudden these accoutrements started showing up and all these tchotchkes and stuff. And then an hour later, as we're leaving, boom, it was launched. The next day, it went to $70 billion in total value based upon all of the tokens in circulation, right? So this is one of the first real-world use cases, a GovFi protocol on Solana. So there's 1 billion tokens outstanding. The only tokens that will be in circulation for now will be the ones that are sold. The rest of them will vest in accordance to a schedule for the duration of the Trump administration. So you'll have a limited market in terms of the circulation. And as people come in and they will buy the token, use the token, trade the token, they'll speculate on the token, a vibrant, efficient trading market will develop that will incentivize vigilance so that citizens will use the app and solve problems in their home states. Politicians are running on this narrative, assuming we comply with the law. We don't want to run afoul of campaign finance laws. We're granting campaign contributions with the token. so that politicians can help finance their campaigns. They can raise visibility amongst citizens that this thing exists in their home state. Their citizens can help solve a problem they're running on. They can win the election on this, and it's all without taxpayer cost. That is the beauty of GovFi.
I see. So, I mean, this sounds like a great idea. I hope this gets some kind of attention behind it or get some backing. But I'm going to flip the coin on you, because I'm sure you've heard of people saying, okay, so we'll say the detractors of this or people that are skeptical say, what about a conflict of interest? Because you were mentioning how politicians could campaign their own campaigns off of this. So they'll say, well, it's a conflict of interest. You're definitely going to have all these think tanks in D.C. definitely going to try to break this down and saying, oh, well, you can't do this, or somehow try to find something anywhere that says this is illegal because it's not taxable or any crazy idea like that.
Here's how you follow the money, Sal. It's all a question of what's cost effective. You want to spend money marketing and pushing a message, you're going to spend X. Exxon used to dump in the ocean because paying the fines was cheaper than remediating and canning the sludge, right? Now, we haven't made any campaign contributions yet, and we got really, really good lawyers. So when and if this situation comes up, we're going to solve it before it starts. If a controversy arises, it's going to be cheaper than marketing. Pay some legal fees, you deal with it. If there's litigation, you deal with it. It's going to get covered because this is controversy. And controversy, as you know, always sells.
Eric Bischoff once said a controversy creates cash. He was the president of World Championship Wrestling. So, I get it. I just see it. I don't even see it as even controversial. I think the concept is a great idea for especially blue cities where cops themselves cannot call into ICE or say anything about what's going on because of, like I said, there's these laws and internal guidelines that you have to follow, internal memos, but the average citizen, they can. Like you've seen, I'm sure, in the street lately, there's a diaphragm law in New York City where the police officers are not allowed to put their knee on someone's back, even trying to control them. I'm sure you've seen all these incidents. They're wrestling with people. It was a lot less back in the day because you were at least allowed to control a suspect by using your knee, at least hold them down while you handcuff them and pull them up or her up. Now you can't do that. So I'm just saying the citizen, though, a regular civilian, I've seen videos where they jump in. There was one recently just the other day, and they were holding the suspect down, trying to, with their knee on his back, trying to hold, get them handcuffed.
I would do that in a second. I don't have to abide by the same laws you do.
And that's what I'm trying to say. I think the app is innovative, especially to law enforcement, where the police officer, he's not allowed to call or do whatever because it's against, their own protocols and the city ordinance and all of that. But a citizen can. A citizen can get involved. Really, the taxpayer can get involved because it's their money, it's their city, and in the end, it's what they want and what they say that matters, not what police are there to just be what they are, the police. Unfortunately, a lot of jurisdictions have them handcuffed, especially in this manner, because I tell you, Jason, I used to arrest plenty of people that were quote unquote undocumented. And a lot of them had prior records. Some had ICE detainer warrants, but I'm not allowed to notify ICE. If you have an ICE detainer warrant, it's supposed to happen a central booking where they call, and they don't do that. The only way I remember them even notifying anyone is at a trial if they're convicted, and they're convicted of being guilty, right? Then the judge will notify Homeland Security and say, this individual who's an undocumented and you have an ICE detainer warrant was just found guilty in the courtroom. So what would you like to do? He's going to serve out his sentence, and then you come and pick him up. I mean, that's the actual procedure for anyone who doesn't know that. I saw it happen in front of me numerous times in the courtroom. But the police officer is not allowed to when they apprehend the suspect for anything and as an ICE detainer, you cannot notify ICE at all. That's going for New York City. I'm sure there's other jurisdictions that have the same kind of rules. So that's where I think your app could come into play, because he can't as a police officer, but, you know, a friend of his or a friend of hers, whoever it is that the apprehends a suspect, can put it on the app and say, hey, that one of yours is over here in this detention center here.
Here's the thing. It's the most important element of the app. You're connecting a wallet address, and that's it. Nobody knows who you are. So the entire police department can use a phantom wallet and use the phantom app to connect to the site and report these illegals to the app. It's completely anonymous. You don't have to submit your name. You know, when you call an ICE tip line or a law enforcement tip line, they usually like to get some information about the person who's providing the intel. This is all anonymous through a cryptographic connection that's anonymous to the app. Nobody has to give up their name, nothing. You're not calling a phone number, nothing like that. Nobody's going to reach out to you afterwards and say, where did you get the evidence? What made you decide to do this? Can you give us a little background upon nothing like that. It's all anonymous. So citizens need to take comfort that this is all anonymous.
All
So
right,
assuming that you're on the right side of you're on the right side here, the entire New York City, in fact, I challenge the entire New York City Police Department, whose hearts are in the right place, to use the app, get a little bit of an extra income through the rewards, and bombard this application with all the illegals in New York City.
It's funny. Drone Ranger just wrote, if you're going to do that, you better use a VPN. What he's trying to state, Jason, the New York City Police Department has a way of conducting themselves when they're out to get someone, where they literally break the laws. They did it in my own case. So if they had to try to hack whatever it is to find out who is behind this app or who's behind that wallet, what would happen? Because they're going to try to steal people. That's how they are. I'm just telling you, especially
So
in terms.
Your Drone Ranger's right. You can use a VPN, but the photo itself has the metadata. And our app proves that that photo was taken within a certain coordinates at a certain time using a specific device, which plays a role in proving the location of the data. But good luck decoding a 32-bit string, cryptographic connection. Good luck.
I see. That's the main point, because I know there's a lot of people here that they're retired or from the job. They know how dirty these guys in the NYPD are. I mean, they even kind of cooperate with government entities, whether it be the FBI, even a certain committee when it came to a certain individual, and they will get these bogus subpoenas. They're not even real, right? They're all like internal, like they're not supposed to be using an administrative subpoena in a criminal manner, but that's the kind of stuff they do to get information. So I want to be clear. So if a police officer who's either active right now or has information gets this app and does this, are they going to be investigated through this app to say, oh, we know that Joe Dominguez or Joan Dominguez, I have the metadata here and I could use a subpoena and say they have to give over that information right here.
You'll never be able to prove that in court. It is a cryptographic connection. You know how long it would take to mathematically prove and trace all the way back to that particular wallet, even if you do use a VPN? Cryptography is a science, right? Nobody really talks about it in crypto anymore because the number of people in crypto that know nothing about cryptography is about 98%, right? One of the other comments that were made here is now you're ratting on your neighbor, which turns you into communist. Would you rather? And they're not neighbors. These people are not our neighbors. They don't belong here. They're criminals. Would you want to put your daughter at risk? Or do you want to help clean up a problem in our country? Choose, and choose wisely. right? I have two
Listen.
daughters. I got two daughters. I'm choosing wisely.
Listen, I look, I agree. There's definitely a problem in this country with this migrant crime wave. There are gang members everywhere. I remember some of them were even on TikTok boasting about it until they finally stepped in, which is funny how Homeland Security and ICE stepped in on that and weren't allowed to do anything else. But they did stop this one guy after a reign of terror that he had committed all over the place. And believe it was Ohio. He went from east to, he was moving through the middle of the country. But here's an interesting question from Marlon Bethel, who's also a member of the Finance family. He says, are there plans to expand the app to local Crime Stoppers tip reporting?
That's just an integration. You know how easy that is for us? We got people now that are negotiating and contacting all sorts of different bureaus and law enforcement agencies. We're not charging them any money. This is not an app that's designed to generate revenue. It's a monetary system. So if you own the token, your token value grows with the monetary system. The more it's used, the more utility it has, the more valuable it becomes. So in terms of integration, we'll give you the API. You can have it for nothing. No taxpayer cost. That's GovFi. That's GovFi.
I like that. John Ranger says this would be like solving a crime on duty and then submitting a Crime Stopper tip to try and get PPN for double dip. He's smart. Also, Patrick Donahue is going to be on tomorrow on the Finest Unfiltered at 8:05 live as a guest. Tune in for that one on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube and X and on Rumble Live. He said, Pete Panuccio, great man. With a last name like that, it makes him also a Paisan. It'll be a double good. Because he's a good man and he's Italian. So
I know him 30 years.
Good man. Good man. I used to go in Midtown South. I only had to deal with him in certain, I guess, sometimes where I used to work, I worked in CY traffic, and a lot of those guys would make arrests. So I would go to Midtown South, but they have their own, like they have a panhandling group or whatever. They would run around in Times Square, and they had issues there all the time with the, I guess, making arrests and all the stuff they vouchering. So that's a little interaction I've done with Midtown South, other than having to go there and pick up, I guess, the prisoners and then transport them to central booking. But I remember that there was a lot of activity just in Midtown South due to that Times Square unit. And that could probably be another show all unto itself. But shout out to Pete Panuccio, who is one of my brethren as a fellow Paisan.
Yep. Yeah. And Tom, let me tell you how beautiful. Look, you see a lot of these types of people in law enforcement. I grew up with Thomas Midtown South. We went to kindergarten together. He married his childhood sweetheart. It's the only person they've been with. They have a beautiful family. They are a power of example of the American family. Really. I'm going to call him as soon as I get off the show.
Unlike when they just jump over a border and here you go. I'm here in America. Pay me all my freebies and all of that, like you've been seeing in the last 4 years under a destructive president. Here's John Ranger too. Finest Unfiltered needs to create their own currency and pay out commentators. I'm going to get rich off dim dimes and Macari money. Good one. That's a good one. Yeah, John Ranger, he's a little bit of a character. I think I started off on the wrong foot with the guy, but he's funny. He's a funny guy. I hope you are a guy. I mean, it might be a girl. I don't want to offend anybody. But I want another thing too, Jason. So we were discussing this prior about illegal immigration. So you saw just in the last couple of days that President Trump enacted this. He put a wartime act, I believe it's from I don't know if it was World War II or Civil War, in order to curb illegal immigration, where he could get these gang members and deport them instantly. And then we had a judge in D.C. It's a circuit judge, by the way. This guy, Boasberg, who's he is a judge that was appointed by Barack Obama. I mean, I don't know how much stock you put into who appoints who, but he's a circuit judge. He's a lower court judge, but he's interfering, I believe, in the executive branch, and something that was a mandate by the people and by the fact that they voted for President Trump, who raised the platform of, I'm going to deport illegal criminal aliens that are in gangs. And then this guy right here we have on the screen, Boasberg, put in this crazy rule that almost stopped the shipments of these criminal gang members that were on a plane headed to whatever country they were from. I think they ended up in El Salvador, and said, you can't do this. So I don't know if you get your thoughts on that, because I think your act kind of falls in line with this kind of activity, because we have activist judges that are running crazy trying to get involved in executive decisions.
So here, it's really easy to capture a photo of the activist judges. Those courtrooms are open to the public. Go to the courtroom, take a picture of the activist judge, and upload it to the Ice Raid Explorer. You get a reward for it. Will they catch him and try him and incarcerate him? That's another story. But do it. Do it. The other thing is this.
Yeah, and actually, there's articles of impeachment, I believe, on this judge right now. A congressman in Texas tried to put that in very recently. Here it is. Trump calls for impeachment of judge overseeing Venezuelan migrant deportation case. And somebody here said, Sal does not understand checks and balances. No, it's not checks and balances. He put in this alien, I believe it's called the Alien Enemy Act of 1798. Thanks, Marlon Bethel, for that. So that act in itself, you can't just act like a judge and try to cut this off. It's been implemented by the president, national security. He's not saying he's putting 1 million people, a National Guard in the street. This act in itself states that he can remove criminal, gang member, illegal immigrants.
Terrorists.
That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. And I think this judge, along with many others, many legal scholars, are saying the same thing. This judge has overstepped his bounds. And this happens a lot, whether it's a Republican or Democrat in office. And as a citizen, I think, along with many others, think that it's kind of ridiculous that we continuously have judges acting like activists when all they're supposed to do is interpret the law. Not, we're going to shut this down. You're not allowed to do anything. You didn't get elected to office. You got appointed as a judge. People that get elected make those decisions, what you can and can't do with something. You just interpret the law. But I find it, because they sent 250 of these people. I saw a video by I think it was El Salvador, that president there. It was like these guys are really bad dudes that they brought there. And why were they trying to stop this when he enacted a law that's 100% constitutional? It's legal.
It's not only that. Turning around mid-flight from El Salvador has a lot of other implications. You can't just turn around. What if the fuel tanks don't contain enough fuel for you to get back? That's number one. What is the implication, penalty, violation by going the whole way to El Salvador in light of this particular order by this judge? Well, let's play the whole tape. Eventually, you go all the way to the Supreme Court, where it gets corrected and balanced constitutionally, right? So I always say to people, if you want to change society, you use your money and you sue your way up to the Supreme Court. If you win, I'll bow, no questions asked, because when those 9 justices walk into those chambers and deliberate, nothing short of a miracle happens. Nothing short of a miracle.
I agree. They just, what they're supposed to do, and they've done numerous times, even up to until yesterday, they always interpret the law. They don't go beyond interpreting the law. They're there to say, this is the law. You either did this against it or for it or whatever it is. They're not supposed to say, well, also, you can't do this and you can't do that. And I know you enacted a law. Actually, I think the last time it was enacted was under FDR. And it's designed to stop, terrorism and all these things and you as a judge can't. I see it that way. I was in law enforcement. I would be pretty angry if a judge stepped over their bounds and did this, what they did the other day. Because now what do we do about all these other people, Jace? How many other criminal gang members are running around and they're in custody and supposed to be deported? Because this guy said you can't do anything for 14 days, which I heard Tom Holman say we're not going to honor that. Now, I don't know if you can or can't, but I think in itself, the ruling is unconstitutional. It's just saying no, but you can't do this, or you. And I don't think that's right, because I think they've already determined that they were going to deport these people, which is their right because they're in federal custody. I think it's all federal cases. It's not local cases. They're federal cases. These are hardcore.
These people broke the law.
Correct.
They broke the law. That's it. That's it. And if it's necessary, it'll go to the Supreme Court. And this administration, as you know, will go all the way to the Supreme Court.
That's what I think. I think it'll be decided there, and they're going to say exactly what I'm stating here, that Trump is in constitutional area of enacting a law, and that they have to follow it. That's it. I mean, any president could do the same thing. I just don't understand why this is, why this judge decided to do this. But apparently he's got conflicts. I read this morning that the daughter is involved with a pro-advocacy group for illegal immigrants. You see, it's always a catch. It's that nothing is ever on the up with these people. That's what I've known, especially in D.C. But there's a picture there, right? And we're showing illegal. Apparently, it's illegal immigrants in New York City getting arrested for something, right? So, what do you think about just a couple of weeks ago? We saw the illustrious mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, who I mentioned before you came on, and he said that New York City spent $6.9 billion on all these illegals plus the migrant shelters, a lot more than the other three mayors that were at this hearing. And now the DOJ has decided to investigate all of this, what was going on in the migrant shelters and the Roosevelt Hotel, not the Walcott Hotel, apparently, but that one seems to have a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. But how do you skip over Eric Adams, who was the mayor, saying, come on, come all, and his pal, who's in administration no longer there, he's under so many investigations, I lost count, saying, where's my crumbs when it came to the migrant shelter contracts? I don't get it. I mean, I think there's definitely something there, and that $6.9 billion was spent by New York City. What do you think about that?
I think when you cut off funding, federal funding, right, it's going to force these people to commit crimes because they're not going to get the money that they were allocated because there's no more funding for it. And a lot of this money was coming from different government agencies, right? And when they commit these crimes, you see them out in handcuffs, right? So New York City, because of the law that we have that prevents NYPD from cooperating with federal ICE officials, if you cut off federal funding and you force these people to commit crimes, they're going to get arrested, right? And when they get arrested, that's the beginning of it's an unfortunate batch of red tape that you'd have to go through, but definitely corrupt. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's look, this is what we're in the process of doing, right? Is cleaning up the corruption. If you think for a minute that a guy worth $350 billion who's sending people, Elon doing everything that he's doing with Tesla and with SpaceX, and if you think he's stealing your money, you're either being paid to say that, or you're so demented that there's really no hope. Only God can restore your sanity, right? I got to believe these people really, really want to clean up our country because it's plagued with rot and fraud, waste, and abuse, right? That's what Doge was there for. So one of you guys says,
look at that. New York City immigrants arrested in week 1 of Trump ICE raids. And that is why the crime numbers in New York City have started to decrease. It's nothing that the illustrious police commissioner, name only, Jessica Tisch or Eric Adams have reinvented the wheel. That's what it is. ICE is running around. Those criminal gangs are running around. They're either getting deported or they're leaving New York City. In fact, they're shutting down some hotels where there were a lot of them there. There was a lot of crime going on. They're not there. They don't want to get picked up by ICE. They're not playing around. This isn't the NYPD where they know it's a revolving door or they have a way out or some of their propagandists will put them up for their own thing on Twitter. This is legit. And in fact, Marlon's got a good question for you here. If GoFi working with the FBI, or is GoFi working with the FBI, State Department, which federal agencies are GoFi sharing info with to expedite these deportations?
So that's what we're in. That's what we're in DC. I'm here every week. That's what we're in DC negotiating, right? We're talking to them all. Because why wouldn't you use an app that fits within the DOGE mandate, that makes government more efficient, that allows citizens to earn through the delegation of tasks that would otherwise be undertaken by these federal agencies, right? That's what the promise of GovFi is, right? So, and that's why I'm in DC every week.
I think this is I think that this will be a good, if they actually went through and the FBI and all these police agencies and departments and also Congress would get behind it. I don't see an issue with it. I think this whole topic of illegal immigration, which is, and is a violent crime. There is a chart for violent crime in New York City. And it's only, see how it's gone up under Eric Adams? Yet he keeps saying, the crime is down, jobs are up, the city's not surviving, it's thriving. And meanwhile, he's partying to the break of dawn. You have people that were just lit on fire a couple of days ago. A human being was lit on fire at night outside of a pub. So this is the kind of stuff you're seeing in New York City. But he's saying crime is down. But the reason it's down would be this instance of having ICE running around doing things. So whether you want to say it's a fear factor or whatever it is, I don't think that Trump, and listen, I'm the first to say if President Trump is good, I applaud him. Obviously on the show, you've seen where I hit him. I hit him before you came on with this whole Eric Adams, Woolman Rink and all this other stuff. But when it comes to this stuff, right, they're not going after the common citizen that's, trying to make a living or trying to get their papers and become a legal citizen. He's going after gang members and people that have criminal records or have committed a heinous crime. That's also another thing. If you're an illegal immigrant, you decide to murder someone, that's a heinous crime. So you can either put them through the courts or the feds can come and say, you're out of here. Just like that. That can happen. You actually save taxpayers a lot of money. But that's what he's aimed at. I think a lot of people, especially in New York City, some have this misconstrued idea that Trump is targeting regular immigrants, and that's not the case. And I don't know if you want to clarify anything on that, because I think a lot of New York City residents think like I'm saying, or they think he's going after, regular immigrants and not the illegal immigrants that are gangbangers and all this other stuff.
We're after criminals, the worst of the worst, then the next of the worst, right? And I just want to say something else, because I know we've been talking about illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. We have a program that our app offers. If you are first of all, this country was built on immigration. Where would we be as a nation without it, right? Our app offers a special reward for those who come forward and process legally and pursue a legal status the right way. If you don't have a criminal background, you're an honest, hardworking person that's been here for a while, they're not after you. But if you come forward, we'll help you and we'll reward you. You'll get a head start in the new golden age of America. It's right on our website.
What is your website, just so people know?
So they can find us at iceraid.us, and all our social media channels are on the website. Definitely follow us on social media. We talk a lot on social media. Participate in the sale of the token, right? Even if you don't plan to use the app, this GovFi will onboard the next billion users in crypto.
Listen, I hope this is very successful, Jason. I like the idea, I like the concept. I just need the right people behind it, and to say we're going to introduce, cooperating with you guys. So I think this could work. I'm also, as being a former law enforcement, I think illegal immigration, especially these crime, these gang members, they have to go. I don't know how they're going to do it because you have a lot of this red tape they got to try to cut across because the police department can't cooperate on this stuff. I think there is a way forward. At least ICE could do it. We're going to need more immigration judges. It's not an easy fix, but I think together as a whole, we could come up with a solution. Jason, what's your social media handles people can follow you personally?
So it's Jason Meyers NYC on Twitter. I'm on Telegram a lot. I don't know if your viewers are on Telegram, but if you go to iceraid.us and hit our social media accounts, you'll find me there.
That's great, folks. I hope you all would find it in your heart to follow Jason and follow all the updates with this because I find this to be fascinating. This has been a good time with you, Jason. I hope to have you back in the future. Hopefully, you get somewhere in DC because it's very, as you know, it's a bureaucratic place where you have to know and do and just to get around over there. But thanks for coming on today, Jason, and I hope to see you in the future back on the show.
God bless, Sal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, so I wanted to touch on one last thing before I'm gonna go, and I wanted to say the mayoral race in New York City. Somehow Andrew Cuomo raised $1.5 million, I think, and this other nut job socialist is raising money. And I don't know how that's gonna go democratically in the Democratic primary, but Eric Adams for sure. I heard he's running in an independent campaign, and he can't even get matching funds. So be prepared. This mayoral race is going to get crazier.
It's going to be a gangs of New York mayoral race. That's what you're going to see. Gangs of New York.
Yeah, it is. It's a gangs of New York thing. So people, stay tuned. I'm going to have a little bit more on that. I think I had some info out there about Andrew Cuomo and the latest person to endorse him. What's another crony, actually. And the crony knows Eric Adams, too. All you're getting with Cuomo, remember, imagine a coin. You flip that coin, and by the way, it's a corrupt coin. You flip it, one side's Eric Adams, and the other side's Andrew Cuomo. These are voices of the past. They're corrupt. You need a new face, someone who's not involved in anything. And the only two faces I see that are not involved in anything is Jim Walden, who's running as an independent, and Curtis Sliwa, who's running as a Republican. Those are two people that have no ties to anything. Keep that in mind when you hit that voting booth on Election Day, especially during these primaries, too. It looks like Cuomo's going to get it. He's raising a ton of money. It's the same old, same old. You even have the Republican Party people going to him. So I find this bizarre. I'm sure John McCarr and Eric Dim, they're gonna touch up on this as well. And also, if everybody can, if you haven't already, please go to squad/life.com if you want to pick up the Derek Strong shirt for Eric Dim and his family. Also, there's only one fundraiser. It's still going on, a GoFundMe page. You go for Eric Dim. If you can support his family and help him out. As you know, his son's battling a disease it's truly horrifying. And my heart and my prayers are always with Eric and his family. And I hope everyone out there, at least if you can't contribute or you have already, just please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. And hopefully that will get Derek, what he needs and the help he needs with everything. So again, my heart goes out to Eric. So again, tomorrow, 8:05 live. John McCarry on the Finest and Filth is going to have Patrick Donahue. He's a former NYPD, over 20 years on. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say. He's a good guy. He's always in the comments here. I'll be back on Thursday, 12:05 live. I'll try to bring you some more fast, hard-hitting news. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. To the supporters and the haters, I'm Sal Greco. I'm signing off, and I'll see you on Thursday.
So this is a biblical moment. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?